It's really nice to see that Chaosmon can finally become a full archetype deck by itself thanks to the support of the ACCEL cards in BT20. The goal of the deck is to DNA Digivolve into your level 7 Chaosmon Valdur arm, which has one of the easiest methods to actually achieve to set up both your level 6s on the board. It has a number of tools to make simple but yet effective plays in order to achieve its win condition. After playing the deck, I feel like it can be considered as fairly competitive with quite a bit of potential to actually help it get there. So I was curious, how much does it actually cost to build this deck? I gathered all the prices off TCG Player at the time of making this video, and all of it sums up to just about $100. Now I do want to clarify that this isn't some tier 1 deck that is going to be dominating every single tournament and winning all of them. And also $100 still might be a little too steep for it to be considered as budget friendly. But it is capable of standing toe-to-toe against many other decks, which definitely still means something. Most of the cards that you need to build it really just comes from the Special Booster 2.5. So this is where you guys come in. Let me know in the comments down below on what you think about the Chaosmon ACCEL deck. On how good do you think it is? Like always, let's begin with the Digi-Egg cards, starting with 4 copies of Digimon. The inherited effect of this card allows you to turbo Digivolve up your stack, reducing the Digivolution cost by 2 as long as you go into an ACCEL trait, whenever you play out an ACCEL trait Digimon as well. This effect is really key to some of our combos that I'm going to show you guys later on. Now let's begin talking about the level 3s, starting with 4 copies of Liomon, which is the main searcher of the deck to help you find your pieces. Chaosmon, ACCEL trait Digimon, anything you need in a line, especially when it comes down to the ACCEL trait option cards that you can grab, being Singularity of Chaos, which is also going to be really important for the combos. And then its inherent effect provides you barrier so that you can always protect yourself in battle as well. As for the other ACCEL trait rookie, you want to play 4 copies of Falcomon, which is the one that you focus building your stack upon because it can reduce its Digivolution cost when it gets into level 4 by 1, meaning as long as you go into any ACCEL trait, you can effectively make it at 1 cost. Its inherent effect gives you piercing, so as you swing over your opponent's Digimon, you also get to deal damage. One of the nice things of both these rookies is that they give you the choice to Digivolve for 1 or 0 on top of your Pinamon, which gives you a bit more navigation on your memory gauge. But that wraps up for all the ACCEL trait rookies that are available in the card pool, which is why I also decided to include 2 copies of the BT16 Ukomon to help the searching efficiency a little bit more, and we can also hatch our eggs so that we can establish the rookie that we want to build our stack afterwards. Now I have seen lists out there that only run the 8 ACCEL trait rookies, which I think is a little bit too low for my liking, therefore I think 10 is the sweet spot just to ensure that we have opening plays. Now let's move on to level 4s. 4 copies of Liomon, which has on play and when Digivolving effect to DP reduce your opponent's Digimon by 3000 for the turn. Itself also has barrier, which is exactly the same as Liomon, which we saw earlier. And then 4 copies of Diatrimon. When you play or Digivolve into it, you get to suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon, and also giving the inherited effect of piercing, just like Falcomon. The nice thing with both these level 4s is that they also cost only 4 memory for you to hard play if you ever need to when you don't see a rookie. And now for level 5s, I'm running 4 copies of Loader Leomon, which has also on play and when Digivolving effect to DP reduce the opponent's Digimon by 3000, but this time it lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Furthermore, you get to stop when Digivolving effects of that Digimon too. Its inherent effect gives you once per turn redirect to stop your opponent's attacks. For the other level 5, I'm running 4 copies of Chromon. Just like on play and when Digivolving effect, you get to suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon. Afterwards, you get to give one of your Digimon extra 3000 DP for the turn, and then one of your Digimon gets to attack. This card is really good for early game removal plays against any of your opponent's Digimon that's level 5 or lower. This allows you to climb up your stack, and even if the memory gauge passes to your opponent's side, you can still make an attack to finish it off to take down their Digimon to keep up with momentum and establish board presence. Its inherent effect is when attacking, minus 4000 DP to one of your opponent's Digimon, which is great to get rid of smaller bodies, especially Floodgate rookies, or whenever you want to weaken your opponent's Digimon as you attack over them. That's it for level 5s. Now let's talk about level 6s, 4 copies of Bancho Leomon. You can reduce the play cost of this guy by 5 if there is a ACCEL trait Digimon on your board to begin with. Now when you play or Digivolve into it, you get to D-Digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon and then give something minus 5000 DP that also lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. This card single-handedly can just get rid of big level 6 stacks out of nowhere, which is pretty crazy. And then its last effect is at the end of turn, you get to DNA Digivolve into any Chaosmon in its name, and then it can also attack. Just like Loader Leomon, its inherited effect lets you redirect the opponent's attacks once per turn. And then moving on to its other level 6 partner, running 4 copies of Valdur. Just like Bancho Leomon, you get to reduce its play cost by 5 if there's an ACCEL trait on the board. When you play or Digivolve into this guy, you suspend all your opponent's Digimon, and then afterwards one of your Digimon gain 3000 DP, and then one of your Digimon can also attack. It can be the same or it can be separate as well. Just like Bancho Leomon, end of turn, you can DNA into Chaosmon, and then it can make an attack. And then with its inherited effect, just like Chromon, minus 4000 DP when attacking. That's it for level 6s. Now let's talk about level 7s. We're definitely be running 4 copies of Chaosmon Valdur arm, which is what the entirety of the deck is trying to get into. You want to DNA Digivolve with a yellow level 6 and a black or green level 6 on your board. And the nice thing about that is both your Bancho Leomon and Valduramon are yellow itself, meaning that you can actually stack 2 Bancho Leomons together to DNA Digivolve into this guy, or even 2 copies of Valduramon instead of needing both of them separately at the same time. It has security attack +1 to help you deal the damage you need to achieve your win condition faster. Its partition is exactly the same as its DNA Digivolution requirement, so you can always spit out both the bodies that you have underneath it if it ever is in threat. When you get into this guy, for every level 6 source it has, you get to suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, and also gain 1 memory as well for each. And then it has a powerful floodgate effect that stops any on-play effects on your opponent's side, including Digimon or Tamers, and prevents them from unsuspending for an entire turn. The nice thing about this card is even in times when you don't have 2 level 6s to DNA, you can always choose to just hard Digivolve for the 5 cost, and you still get to gain at least 1 memory back, suspend 1 thing down, and you still have the floodgate effect on the opponent's side. But keep in mind, you do lose the values of gaining additional memory, suspending an extra thing, and especially partition, which is pretty important too. Next, I tucked in 1 copy of the BT16 Chaosmon just as another level 7 that we can always DNA if we need to. This one requires a yellow level 6 and specifically a black level 6. It has partition for both those colors, barrier and blocker, which is a great source of defense, but predominantly when you get into it, you want to de-Digivolve 3 on your opponent's Digimon and minus 8000 DP so you can get rid of almost anything from the game. Lastly, at every end of the opponent's turn, both you and your opponent will have to trash the top card of security, which can help set up for potential game-winning attacks in your following turn when it gets back to you. Then to round off for all of our level 7s and Chaosmons in general, I'm also teching in 1 copy of Ultimate Chaosmon from EX6. Being able to DNA into it easily with Bancho Leo or Valduramon is just always great. And then you always get to tuck sources underneath that are level 6s so that you can gain additional buffs. By having more level 6s underneath, you can bomb deck more of your opponent's Digimon. Afterwards, as long as you have 4 level 6s underneath it, it gains security attack +3 and piercing, which can be pretty nutty to deal a massive amount of damage out of nowhere. The main reason why I'm running this card is really just for additional source of removal by bottlenecking the opponent's Digimon, which certainly comes up in specific matches. That's it for all our Digimon. Now let's talk about Tamers. 4 copies of Analog Youth, which has a lot of applications and usages for this particular archetype. First and foremost, you get to trash sources, meaning that can help set up level 6s for your Ultimate Chaosmon if I ever get into it. But the main use of this card is to synergize with Singularity of Chaos. When our big Chaosmon stack gets deleted, we get to go ahead and gain additional memory to start off with our turn. And the most important thing that I want to mention is that a single copy of this card is actually $10, meaning it's $40 in total, which brings the deck all the way up to that $100 budget. That means if you don't play this card at all, this deck can go all the way as low as $60, and I have other alternative suggestions that you guys can be including in the tech choices, which we'll cover later on. But overall, it definitely provides you that extra value, especially when it comes to searching, to ensure that you can find your pieces, which is really, really important to help you get into your combos as consistently as possible. Next, I'm also running 1 copy of the BT1 TK, just as a memory setter, but also to help us fetch any pieces that we need from the security. That's it for all of our Tamers. Now let's talk about our options, which I have been mentioning throughout the entire video. Singularity of Chaos is a card that you're definitely wanting to be running it as a 4-off. It is a 2-cost white option, but as long as you have a Chaosmon or any ACCEL trait Digimon on the board, you get to ignore the color requirements. And what you want to do is it lets you play out a ACCEL trait Digimon from your hand, reducing its play cost by 4. This lets you play anything that's level 4 or lower for free, reducing your level 6's play cost. But the main thing you want to do is actually play out your level 6s to stack up the cost reductions of Valduramon and Bancho Leomon together to make it extremely cheap. And what the inherit effect actually does is at the end of the opponent's turn, if this Digimon has Chaosmon in its name, you're going to trash your opponent's security, and then that Chaosmon stack is going to lose 30,000 DP. That might sound counterintuitive. Why do you want to be deleting your own stack to begin with? Because you're kind of just negging your own value. And that is exactly where partition actually kicks in, where you can use it because the minus 30,000 DP is considered as being deleted as game mechanics. So then you can play out your level 6s out and then re-DNA them all over again. And that is exactly where Analog Youth comes in handy as well, to give you extra memory once your stack is deleted at the end of opponent's turn. But that's not all. It also has a security effect, which simply gains you a memory and then you get to add it to your hand. And then to round off for all the options, I'm running 1 copy of Yellow Scramble, just a really strong staple card to help us climb up the Digivolution stack a little faster. And if you guys don't want to run Analog Youth or want to reduce the amount of Analog Use, you can always run 2 copies of this card along with TK, and then you guys can fill it with the other stuff as we move into the tech choices. All right, other cards that you guys can also be including in this deck. Let's start with some of the substitutions that you want to be adding if you don't want to play Analog Youth. The other generic staples I would always recommend would be Yellow Memory Boost and Physical Training, just to help you search and find more pieces. Keep in mind, these are yellow options at the end of the day, whereas your Digi-Egg card being the Pinamon is green, so you are going to be bound to running into any color restrictions and requirements in order to use them. So you don't want to be adding too many of these either. Then as another level 6 that you guys can also be including, there certainly is the Medieval Gallantmon, which is a very powerful staple and answer to the meta. Itself is also green, so you can always choose the DNA or further climb up your line if you really need to. But overall, it is just a standalone card, which is really good at getting rid of 2 of your opponent's bodies instantly. Aside from just trying to DNA into Chaosmon, you can also actually DNA Digivolve into Alphamon or your Ken Ace. And you can easily achieve this by DNA Digivolving your Bancho Leo and Valduramon, or even just 2 Bancho Leomons itself. By getting into this guy, you can massively DP reduce something by 15k that lasts until the end of opponent's turn. When you DNA Digivolve, you get to recover and trash your opponent's security as well, gain memory whenever security cards are trashed, and then overall, just another very strong DNA target that you can get into. Alright, combos and how to play the all-new Chaosmon ACCEL deck. Right here, starting with the mulligan hand that you want to see in your opening pieces are really just going to be your rookies. Liomon to help you search. Falcomon is the one that you want to Digivolve and establish in the back. Analog Youth to really help you find the pieces. And it's really stack climbing as you want to go into your 4s, 5s, and 6s. But you don't need to establish 2 stacks necessarily, because you just want to establish 1 stack that's a level 6. And then you want to have Singularity of Chaos to play out your other level 6. And that is exactly the reason why I'm maximizing 4 copies of each level 6 to ensure that you can pull off this combo as consistently as possible. Starting with an early game combo that you can pull off to get rid of your opponent's Digimon that's at least 11k or lower, this is all you need. A Falcomon in the back with 1 memory. Go ahead and push out the Falcomon. Falcomon lets you reduce a Digivolution cost by going to ACCEL trait by 1 cost. Liomon costs 2 with the alternative Digivolution requirement, so you pay 1 instead. You get to minus 3k for something for the turn. Now, let's go ahead and hard play out the Liomon here to search and find pieces that we need, because this is a card that we always want to prioritize hard playing as much as we can to find our pieces, such as Singularity of Chaos, anything that is Chaosmon as well at the same time. But since we played out a ACCEL trait Digimon right here, Pinamon, the Digi-Egg card, now kicks in, letting us Digivolve into Cromon, which is the level 5 for reduced cost of 2, so we only pay 1 memory. With Cromon's effect, when it Digivolves, we get to suspend down one opponent's Digimon. Then one of our Digimon gets extra 3k for the turn, and one of the Digimon gets to attack. So we can suspend that Digimon down that we said earlier, that's 11k, with the Liomon reducing it down by 3k, making it 8. Cromon is 9k, that swings over that 8k body, taking it down, and you get to pierce for 1 check as well. Although Cromon is 9k, going into security can be dangerous because it can lose to almost any level 6 or 5s. You can always have Liomon barrier to trash your own security to keep it still alive. And that's exactly how you want to end your turn, by getting rid of your opponent's Digimon on their side, especially if they don't have anything to come out to clap back against this board the following turn. For this next combo, it's a follow-up from the previous turn. Assuming if your opponent is not able to deal with your board, this is where you can actually go for your crazy level 6 and level 7 plays. You want to make sure you have your pieces, 2 level 6s, Chaosmon Valdur arm, as well as the option Singularity of Chaos. So 1 memory is all you need. So go ahead and hatch your egg as usual, Digivolve into any rookie that you have. Now you want to use the Singularity of Chaos option cards, and you get to ignore the color requirements because you have a Digimon with ACCEL trait or Chaosmon on the board. So by paying the 2 costs, you're going to go ahead and hard play the Valduramon here. With Valduramon, it's going to reduce its own play cost by 5, and with Singularity of Chaos, it's going to reduce by 4, meaning you only pay 3 memory in this play. Afterwards, Singularity of Chaos, you're going to have to put it underneath any of your Digimon. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and put it underneath Valduramon here. Now, since Valduramon's on-play effect and Pinamon's effect trigger both at the same time, we're going to go ahead and resolve Pinamon's effect first to then further Digivolve into Bancho Leomon for the 1 cost, since it reduces by 2. And then we get to use Bancho Leomon's effect to de-Digivolve 2 on one of opponent's Digimon and minus something by 5k that lasts until the end of opponent's turn. Now we get to go back to Valduramon with his on-play effect. We get to suspend all the opponent's Digimon, give something extra 3k, and it can attack. We're going to give the extra 3k to Bancho Leomon to either swing over the opponent's Digimon or swing at their security. While we swing with Cromon's Inheritable, minus another 4k. If we swing over the Digimon, we have Piercing. Bancho Leomon is at least 15k, but if it ever runs into anything bigger, you always have Barrier to protect it from that battle too. Now that you finish the attack, you can use your end of turn effects. Whether your Valduramon or your Bancho Leomon both have exactly the same effect, allowing you to DNA and make an attack. So of course, we're going to go ahead and DNA both these together into Chaosmon Valdur Arm. In order to DNA, all you need is a yellow Digimon plus a green or black Digimon. This is really effective because that means you don't always necessarily need to have Bancho-Leomon plus the Valdurmon. You can have double Bancho-Leomon or double Valdurmon to do the same thing, since they're both yellow and they also have the retrospective other color for your secondary requirement for the DNA. Once you get into Valdur, you get to suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers and gain a memory for every level 6 that you have in the source. Since there's Bancho-Leo and Valdur, since they're both level 6s, you spend 2 things down and gain 2 memory regardless. Your opponent is now going to be locked out entirely from any on-play effects, whether it be Digimon or Tamers, and none of them can also unsuspend for 1 whole turn. Finishing off Bancho-Leomon's effect, you now get to attack with your Valdur into your opponent's Digimon or security, and since all the inheritables were resetted, you get to further DP reduce even more things on the board if you need to. This leaves your opponent at 3 memory, meaning it's perfect if they ever have a memory setter on their side too. Once your opponent ends their turn and they try to do whatever they want, they pass you back to 1. At the end of the opponent's turn, this is where Singularity of Chaos kicks in. This actually is going to give your Chaosmon Valdur minus 30,000 DP, which will end up deleting it. If your opponent tries to get rid of it via any effects, this is where you have Partition, and this is exactly the same way of how Partition works. Although minusing 30,000 DP is your own effect, but because the Digimon is being deleted by game mechanics, it's not considered as your own effect anymore, meaning Partition will actually happen here. At the end of the opponent's turn, you trash the opponent's security as well, and then you also get to play out both Bancho-Leomon and Valdurmon, and you get to use their on-play effects to further disrupt any board that they establish as well. And now with your turn coming back, you have the option to go ahead and attack first if you ever want to. If not, you can just go ahead and DNA into your Valdur again, repeating the same combo and the same effects, gaining that 2 memory, and also continuing making the attacks. For this next combo, I'm also going to show you guys what other crazy plays you guys can pull off if you ever have a chance to establish 2 stacks on the board, plus at least 1 analog youth and 1 memory is all you need. Go ahead and push out right here, and then just like before, we're going to use Singularity of Chaos for the 2 costs to play out Liomon this time. To continue to fetch more pieces that we need in case if we're missing anything, Liomon is going to be completely for free because we're reducing the play cost by 4. This also means that you can play out any level 4 for free because all of them are 4 costs as well to utilize their on-play effects as well. Since we played out another Digimon with ACCEL trait, both Pinamons are now going to trigger. We're going to go ahead and Digivolve one of them into Bancho-Leomon first, paying the 1 cost. Just like before, Bancho-Leomon is going to de-Digivolve 2 on something and minus 5k. Now, resolving the other one, we're going to Digivolve into Valdurmon for 1 cost as well. Valdurmon, just like before, suspending everything down. Let's give extra 3k to Bancho-Leomon. Now Bancho-Leomon can go ahead and attack either over opponent's Digimon or security, just like before, piercing, barrier, whatever we need to utilize as well. Now with the end of turn, we're going to go ahead and build a ginormous stack out of this to DNA into Chaosmon Valdur. Just like before, when Digivolving effect, suspend 2 things down, gain 2 memory, and go ahead and attack. And as you're attacking, if your opponent ever tries to threaten your Valdur with aces that can remove it, Partition is going to kick in once again. Play out the Bancho-Leomon, and as well as the Valdurmon, and you get to resolve their on-play effects all over again. And because your Chaosmon Valdur is deleted, that is level 5 or higher with sources, analog youth suspend to gain that memory to keep your turn and hatch an egg. And if you ever have a second one, this is where you can go ahead and DNA all over again, repeating the same thing, gaining the 2 memory back, suspending, keeping everything down, stopping any on-play effects, and swing all over again. And the most thing that I really like about Bancho-Leomon is when you partition it out, if that ace doesn't have any Digimon effect protection, you get to de-Digivolve that ace, potentially stealing even more memory back to your side, completely outplaying their counterplays. Make sure to get your very own Initialized Spark collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.